All of a sudden, it was dark. He did not know how he got here. He did not know where he was. He did not know how to get out. But then he saw it. He didn't know what it was, but it was staring at him. He began to run. It followed. He was moving as quickly as he could, but he could see that it was gaining on him. He could begin to hear and feel the footsteps of this monster getting ever closer, and then suddenly, he fell. And then he awoke. Thank God. It was only a nightmare, said Derek Ha, the pro Valorant player for 100 Thieves. But then he noticed his new surroundings. Instead of being snug in his bunk bed above his teammate Peter Asana Mazurik, he was in an empty room with completely white walls. He began to look for the exit, but he saw no door. He began to panic slightly, calling out beyond the walls, "Is anyone there?" At that moment, a voice responded right next to him. Derek was startled. He slowly turned around and saw Spencer Hiko Martin, the former 100 Thieves player and now content creator behind him. It was Hiko, aside from he had the blue outline like they do in Star Wars when they die. Hiko said, "Take this," offering his hat to Derek. The top of Hiko's head now shone with a brilliant blinding light. Derek asked him why he needed it, and Hiko merely responded, "It helps with clutching. It's like some weird gift or something. I don't know." Derek took the hat, looked down at it, but in that moment, Hiko was gone. Derek awoke again, but this time with the hat in his hands. Into the room came bursting Sean Garris, the coach of 100 Thieves, telling Derek it was time to start LCQ. He'd overslept. 100 Thieves would go on to win the whole tournament. And now, I'll tell you how. So yes, today we will be taking a look at 100 Thieves and how they managed to qualify, and obviously Derek is the clutch god. We won't see too much of it in this video that it did happen in this game, but I thought this was the most interesting map, and some of the more interesting rounds were played, didn't include a Derek 1v1 clutch, but he did win a ton of them. So let's take a look, and let's start with round number 3. This is actually the guard's bonus, and 100 Thieves are on the defensive side here. But one thing I've spoken about 100 Thieves before is that they just play smarter Valorant than almost any other team out there, and I'll show you again in this situation in this round here. Because what's going to happen is they're going to start with some pressure towards A here. You see they put a smoke down, they put an early stun out there. We get the normal fight for A main stuff, right? A Fade Haunt comes out from the other side from 100 Thieves, but what's going to happen here is we got Will on top of the box here on B, and he's just going to catch a glimpse of Jonah P just there, and so he sees him, and they manage to get the first kill. Now, you've got the first kill, you're in a 5v4 against a bonus, you should be pretty favored to win this round, but, you know, teams still do lose this situation, you know, it still can happen for sure, but it's not really likely to happen with the way that 100 Thieves play this round, because they just decide to play a bit more passive. They have the chamber trap here on this kind of garage area towards C, they put up this sage wall here towards A, and they've smoked off B as well, but you can see some of the positions of these players here right there. They're very ready to fall back. Bang hasn't seen anything on C just yet. Obviously, guard, as you can see there, do put a smoke in towards garage, but obviously that's not really threatening because this chamber trap hasn't gone off, and until it does, you know, that isn't really a threat at this point. So what the guard are going to do here, and actually what they've done, is essentially they're just going to wait for the sage wall, and then they're going to fake like they're going A and come back towards B. But the positioning here of the 100 Thieves players when they do that, I think is really, really good, and it's about to start happening right about now. So you see that they're going to throw in this Fade Haunt here, they're going to send in a smoke, they're going to send in a stun. So there's a smoke, Fade Haunt comes in here, stun comes in, right? You see the reaction from 100 Thieves straight away. They throw their sage slow and they throw a nade down here as well. Obviously there isn't actually anything coming, and the guard quickly pivot back towards B. Now initially Will does start to rotate, and you know they actually put their own smoke down here as well, but then after not hearing anything else and maybe now hearing the utility and the footsteps coming towards B instead, they decide to stay. But I love the positioning of these two players here, of Will and Bang here, because what they don't do is they don't try and defend this. Right, they don't actually try and actively defend anything. They're in a 5v4, they're against worse guns, they hold really passive positions, okay? There is one maybe danger that, you know, someone could have done this, but this is so unlikely that I'm kind of with Bang here that he hasn't seen anything the entire round. They've made a lot of noise towards A, now they've made a lot of noise towards B. To have someone walking down C long would have been absolute gigabrain by the guard, and I don't think something that really is ever really expected to happen, and they still have the chamber trap in garage as well. So what happens here is the guard do decide, you know, okay, well, we need to take a bit of a risk. We can't just sit here and in a 5v4 retake. So they decide to push here towards, you know, this kind of C-link area. And you see the positions here, though, from Will and Bang really help them in this scenario, right? Because if they were defending that kind of corridor of C-link, you know, they'd be facing a 2v4, right? And it wouldn't be a good situation, and they might die, and they might give up guns, and all of a sudden you might end up in like a 3v3. You know, you could end up in a pretty losable situation pretty quick. But with the positions they're holding, you know, there isn't really a way they can lose this, right? Will actually misses these first shots on Valorant there, but then Pen comes around and trades net there, so they get the kill off that. Then, you know, as Bang is getting flashed, now Will can just cover the cross for him as well, so he knows that he's safe as well. Now there is going to be some danger in this round as the trademark goes off as well, so they get the information someone's in garage now as well. There is going to be a bit of a problem here that Syed does come pushing this, but then Will trade that out very quickly. But then Trent back of sight, you know, this is the one area that perhaps they did go a bit, you know, unaware of perhaps, and actually Trent is able to hit 2 shots there and kill 2 players. Stella does eventually trade it here, as you see. And now Stella is going to make an interesting choice, right? Because this, again, is what 100 Thieves are better at. They're in a 2v1 at this point. And you see Stella is thinking about doing this, but the smoke is about to fade. And you're going to see that the decision he makes now to go back is actually going to save his life, right? Because he was having to heal out. The smoke fades at kind of the worst time. But it's well played by Stella again, right? Because his instant thought is, what's the safest way I can get back to my teammate? And so that's what he does, right? The call has probably come out that this guy was in garage. So Stella, you know, not even thinking, you know, because obviously the trademark went off in garage, so they know this guy was there. But he takes the safest path to go back and get into a 2v1. Will just is checking, you know, that Valen isn't coming out the other side of garage here. You can just see there. But once he feels satisfied that that is not the case, you know, now they're in a 2v1. This is pretty much unwinnable, even if Stella doesn't win that first fight, because, you know, Will can just go off on the swing and probably trade that kill out. So good from the 100 Thieves there, and this is the thing that I think they're just better at than pretty much, well, most other teams, if not every other team, to be honest, which is just playing smart in these scenarios and not, you know, dying in the heat of the moment and trying to make hero plays. And now let's come to round number 6, and what's going to happen in this one is the guard are going to, again, we get the early trade of util towards a lobby like always, but then they're going to come towards garage here. They're going to do a bit of a C split, as you will see here. The Prowler comes out towards B. They kind of fake like, oh, we might be going towards B, but then in comes the second Prowler, in goes a flash, in comes a smoke. We start going in towards this C site, and Bang does the right thing. If you ever catch yourself in this scenario, by the way, where you're on your own on site and there's, you know, potentially 5 people coming towards you, leave the site. That is how you should play these situations almost always, unless you have like a judge or something, I guess. Yeah, Bang just leaves. Obviously, the Razor comes in. They just fully leave, and luckily it doesn't hit them. But the guard come up with a really interesting idea and something you don't normally see, and I really like. So what's going to happen is 100 Thieves, you know, they don't panic. It's a 5v5. They actually go and check that, you know, no one's coming back here as well. They start to clear out garage with the Prowlers, and you know, they want to retake here from 2 angles. They don't want to all just be funneling out through this one area. So retaking garage is going to be pretty important. But what else is important is what the guard are going to do, because they are going to do something that really you very rarely see. But I think, again, yeah, it's a really cool idea. They smoke this off and they start to push. Now, maybe that could have been a bit more used. I'm not sure what exactly they had necessarily to use, but they do eventually send in this flash, and they send in, I think, an Omen flash as well. And you see that it blinds Asuna. Unfortunately for them, Asuna has his ult, which I think is the really one thing that stops them from winning this round, because that was a really cool idea, and you see that Trent did get the first kill on Bang because it is so unexpected to actually do this. But unfortunately, Asuna does have his ult, and so that forces everyone away, and Net unfortunately dies. We end up in a 4v4. But now they have retaken garage at this point. They also have a res here, do 100 Thieves, so they're going to use that as well. Derek does manage to get a trade-off on that kill. Asuna may be going, you know, a bit ahead of the curve here. You know, they do have a res. It probably would have been better had he done this, you know, after the person was fully res, but he goes in. He does die, but he gives just enough time for Stella to come around the corner and I suppose trade that kill. Then Derek now, you know, is attacking from garage as well, and obviously there's a lot going on at this point, and he manages to mop up those final 2 kills, and an interesting retake and an interesting post plant played by both teams, to be honest. I do like the guard's idea overall. I thought it was a cool idea, and unfortunately for them, Asuna just had his ult. And now let's come to round 12, which again is going to showcase kind of the patient play of 100 Thieves being rewarded here. But actually they start off with a bit of an interesting idea. So we get Fade Haunt, again, A main stuff going on, classic. But then actually a Fade Haunt comes in towards C that they destroy pretty early. And they actually kind of, looks like they want to play full retake A here. And I think that's because they have the Fade ult. But then what's going to happen is this Prowler here comes in towards mid and spots someone, so they decide, okay, instead of that, let's just get this first kill. They have both the raise and the fade ult. They've seen someone's in mid, and so they go for it, right? And actually what happens is the raise ult doesn't quite catch him, but Jonah P is forced kind of to run into Will with the op, and so he dies to that, and we end up in a 5v4 again. The guard then try this quick C play off the back of that, but Stella's going to put up this interesting little wall here. He does actually manage to kill Net just before Saya kills him with the Raze ult there. The thing is, this Raze ult, and I don't think Saya maybe realized this, has completely destroyed that wall, and so Bang comes in on the site, and you can see that, yeah, this wall is completely gone, and he was just standing out in the open, perhaps not realizing that that was the case, and we end up in a 4v2. But then here's the thing, right? They stop them with the utility, they send a flash, they send a nade and whatnot. But this is, again, the patience of 100 Thieves coming out here, as you will see, because as we run this a bit further forward, just want to take a look at the position, particularly like Will is going to pick up here, right? This very passive angle, not really defending A, right? He's kind of, again, on his own, but this is a real danger spot that as time goes by, and there was enough time here, essentially the guard could have come around. Eventually the guard are going to decide to come back towards A. Maybe one little nitpick would be that Asna would maybe be in a slightly better spot if he was in the garage window rather than here, because, in theory, they could swing this and he could die. But other than that, it's pretty good. And so in come the guard towards this A site, as you can see here, and they're going to get the spike planted just now. But crucially, again, what's going to happen here is Will doesn't overextend. He's just checking, right? And even goes back to make sure again that no one is there. They have Asna wrapping around on the flank here. But again, he's going to like slowly clear out these angles, kind of wait for his teammate. And look, again, even what's the lose condition of this round? Well, it's getting a free kill for your opponent, right? Being in a position that you just don't expect. And so look, they even send a Fade Haunt here to check this, right? To just check that no one is in this area here, because that would be a lose condition if someone, had either somehow managed to sneak around them, right? So they even, expend a Fade Haunt, because if they just trade their kills, they shouldn't need utility necessarily for this situation. They should just be able to trade their kills. So that's sneaks down towards long. He catches a pretty good timing there. What's going to happen is Bang puts a smoke down here, TP's into it, and now look at this, right? Will's just like, okay, this is fine, right? We suspect that someone might be in hell, and so he's just going to drop down, and even though he does die, Bang comes out of the smoke. Good trade from him. Trent then starts to spam towards him. He does die. He gets a kill on Bang there, but Asner is able to win that fight just there, and 100 Thieves win the round and go up 7-5. Now let's come to the attacking side and round number 19. This one's going to be a pretty interesting one as well, as you will see, because what's going to happen here is we're going to get some trade towards this A position here. We're going to get Fade Prowler coming out towards B to get this smoke here, and the guard are on a kind of save. They're on a kind of force, kind of save situation. So they stack up A essentially, and they're going to get aggressive, right? They're going to walk down here, and 100 Thieves just playing passive, maybe expecting this. Prowler comes out, but he doesn't actually see anyone, and so they feel like, okay, we're confident, so that's pretty good for the guard that that didn't see anyone. But now we're just going to get a big kind of essentially just a crazy fight here going on towards a lobby. Trent actually manages to find the first kill, but now the util is going to flood in from both sides. Sage slow, Raze nade, stun coming in as well. But Asner is ahead of it all, and he actually manages to get the kill on Valorant. But whilst that's happening, I love this from Bang. Bang decides to use his ult here in Heaven, and you see this ult quite commonly for some maybe fast A plays, and it very, very rarely works because teams now have seen this enough to where, they know what the reaction they want to have is to this kind of Omen TP often, and it doesn't cause too many problems. But this time they know that the guard are not on site, they're all the way up here, so there isn't as many things to actually deal with this TP now that they've pushed this, and so this is why this is such a good idea by Bang. They actually get the res on Derek as well, so we end up in a 5v4, and then what they're also going to do is they're going to fade ult this to push them back into Bang as well. And obviously when you're here, right, and you're in the middle of a fight like this, you're not really thinking about, oh, the Omen just TP'd and he must be in Heaven behind me. You're thinking about, how do I escape, right? Or how do I get the next kill, right? Should I be fighting or whatnot? And Sire actually does get the next kill there on Asna. But here's Bang, right? They send the Fatal and they're just completely bamboozled by it, and he gets 2 free kills. Now he does die to Net, and technically he dies to full damage, which is quite funny. And Net's going to do really, really well here because Jonah B is miles away and he's in a 1v3, but he manages to do extremely well considering he can't hear anything. He doesn't know where these players are. He flashes them and obviously delays them. He gets that first kill as well. And he gets honestly a bit unlucky here that, he's kind of looking the wrong way as Will gets the kill on him. But we end up in a 2v1 and, Derek I've seen him do this multiple times in this position where if someone falls down from this position, he's just always hits them straight away. Like moving targets falling down from here, Derek is just undefeated at killing them straight away from it. And he manages to kill Jonah P there, and 100 Thieves win the round. And then finally, let's come to round number 22, another pretty chaotic round overall, and it's going to start with a pretty quick A piece here from 100 Thieves. They send out a Fade Haunt, they send in these Sage Slows, as you can see, they send a Prowler down A short and a Boombot in there as well, right, and they just start sending it down towards Jonah P here, who's kind of the only person on A, and he gets flashed by the Oma Flash, and now he's kind of in this weird spot, right, where he can see Asuna just jumping around and stuff down there. He starts to shoot, he misses the bullets, and eventually he has to TP away, but the guard were playing a pretty aggressive defensive style, I would say. You know, they were being pretty aggressive, and you can see they're going for this fast flank already. The thing is, 100 Thieves have picked the Sage, and I think that really the Sage here on Haven, particularly in North America, is quite a good pick. And the reason for that is a lot of teams on Haven in North America like to play fast retakes, right? They like to, you know, let you, as soon as you're planting the spike, they want to get in there and they want to just, you know, destroy you. Thing is, you can't do that against the Sage, right? Because if you have to deal with a Sage wall and 2 Sage slows, good luck fast retaking. It's not gonna happen, and you know, 100 Thieves benefited, I think, that from the Sage pick on a couple of rounds, and this is kind of another one where it's not as prominent because they did use those Sage slows early on, but as this flank starts to come in and Sire actually pops his ult, God knows how Bang gets this kill, and God knows how he doesn't die either from that Sage ult, but he doesn't. But anyway, he does get traded eventually. But the thing is, what they're going to do is, going back to the Sage, they put up this wall, right? But this wall doesn't get destroyed at any point, so it's just really good info. It doesn't even necessarily slow them down, the guard, because obviously they don't come from that direction, but it gives them really good info that, you know, they know no one is coming from that position, and so it gives them kind of, you know, that kind of security, if you will. As Asuna tries to leave there, they do manage to get the kill on Jonah P in Heaven, but Asuna gets traded out. We end up in a 3v3, and they actually don't have great guns, as you can see. They're working with a Headhunter and a Sheriff here for Stella, and they actually get Fade ulted as well. But again, if you know, you're getting Fade ulted, and they were coming from, you know, all 3 different directions that they maybe could here, or even all 4 potentially, you would feel, you know, pretty trapped and you wouldn't know where to look, but because, you know, this wall is up there, it does allow Stella to basically just, you know, solo isolate this angle, and he's going to get rewarded for doing so, as you will see, because what happens here is he manages to get that first kill. He does then get flashed. They actually get a Fade Horn off and do see that someone else is there as well, but now as Valen is coming out here of Heaven, he's trying to isolate Stella, but again, this wall blocks off his vision from Stella. So this wall, you can see, pretty much won them this round, right? It gave them great info that they weren't coming there. It allowed Stella to survive this. It allowed Stella to isolate this angle, and it pretty much won them the round single-handedly, as he tries to find Stella there, which is an angle you normally can see, but again, Will is able to find that kill, and now they know where the last guy is. Neth eventually does kill Stella there, but he is eventually going to lose this next fight as 100 Thieves go swinging together. Well played as well, and Derek wins the round, and 100 Thieves will go to champions. They win a LCQ, and it should be pretty exciting. And I do think with the way that they play, with the kind of, you know, I would call it playing smart. They do play smarter than a lot of other teams, and then that will win you rounds, and it won them a lot of rounds in LCQ as well. So I do think that they will be a threat in champs, but we'll see how far they can go.